Welcome, everybody, back to the Emerging Screenwriters interview series. Today, I'm super excited. We are talking to top 25 screenwriters to watch, Stephanie Bast.
Hi. Hi. What up?
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Good.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm excited to hear all about your origin story, your process, all of your fun projects, and what's going on with you. So let's just jump into like super easy question. What are you
Sure.
watching right now?
As a mom like you, I don't have a lot of time to watch TV, so I really try to invest in watching at least a pilot and maybe three episodes. So I just finished watching The Studio with Seth
Mhm.
Rogen, a little too close to what we do. And I also started watching Nobody Wants This with
Mhm.
Kristen Bell for a little romantic comedy. And I'm always intrigued to see how they could take the premise, a shiksa and a
Yeah.
rabbi get together, and how do they make it more interesting than we think it's going to be. And in that one, I realized how important it is to have very funny, strong, supporting characters because I really
Yes.
think they help shift it into something different.
Yes, I loved that series. I watched the
Hmm.
whole thing sort of like, and I, like you, don't have a lot of time, but I
Hmm.
was like, yep, I'm going to watch this. And the
Oh,
thing I
good.
loved about it was that finally it was like two people who have problems, they talk about it, and then they move on. And then there's another problem, but it's not like the misunderstanding back and forth of a
Yes,
rom-com.
which is so frustrating.
Yes, it's like they talk about it, and you're like, oh, you mean we could talk about our problems? Wait, what? What are you saying? So
Yeah.
that was like something that was the fresh sort of like twist for me on it that I really appreciated and I liked.
I think it's harder to have that too, because then as the writer, you have to write these dialogues and not just
Yeah,
say, "Oh, I've misunderstood you." Yeah.
right.
So
I can't talk to you.
kudos to them. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
They're like, wait, you have a problem with this? I have a problem with this. Oh, let's deal with it. Okay, okay. Now
Hmm.
we need a new problem, people. What are we gonna
Hmm.
write?
Right.
Yeah, that one's fun. So continue that one if you haven't.
Okay, I shall.
It's good. And who are your comedic heroes, writing heroes? Who do you look up to? Who are like the top of the line for you?
Absolutely. I think when I wanted to become a writer, the one that inspired me the most, because it wasn't until around COVID that I started writing, was Phoebe Waller-Bridge when she did Fleabag. As an actress, knowing her journey there, I was completely blown away by the rules she seemed to have broken. And it was the most, for me, the best second season, best first season, but the most perfect second season I've ever seen. And it really moved me because I feel like so many of us have self-hate for whatever
Mhm.
reason in our life. And she just did the absolute metaphor of self-love because a priest loves her. So it's like, if God can love me, then I can finally love myself. So I was like, I think this is just brilliant. And they found a sexy priest. And
Right?
then my other one is I know this is one of your questions, but I didn't use this one, but Bridesmaids is my favorite. And I wouldn't even say it's a rom-com. I think it's more about friendship. But so Kristen Wiig,
Hmm.
for her acting and her writing, that's my go-to feel-good movie. I just think it's fantastic.
I often do the line of like, help me, I'm poor. Always. Like if you don't get that line, you're not my people. You
It's so true. There's so many things like a quote, but they're not
know, so
as
many. Yeah.
as family friendly, so
Yeah.
I won't.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love Bridesmaids too. I think it's one of those you could just watch it over and over and over and see something new and hilarious each time just because you're in a different place in your life.
It's so
You
true.
know?
It's so relatable on so many levels. And I feel like I should say somebody Asian. Ali Wong really blew me away because I tend to, because I was adopted, I tend to have the same stereotypes on Asians as people place on me that I get angry. And when I saw her do her stand up, I thought she is so obnoxious without rules and like the definition of unapologetic. And I was floored by her. And then she did Beef, and I was like, what can't you do? Because I thought her
Right.
acting was stellar.
Yeah, I love her. She's awesome.
Mhm.
The first time I saw her, I had no idea who she was. And I saw her
Same.
stand up and I was like,
Yeah. This pregnant Asian
what?
woman.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Hmm.
Awesome. I love that. So you touched on a couple things that we're gonna like dive into.
Sure.
One, that you didn't start writing until COVID. So let's talk about like your Writer origin story. Da, da,
Oh,
da.
sure. So I think during COVID, a lot of us went inward,
Yeah.
and I did some really deep therapy, and I discovered that I hated my Asian self. And that
Mm,
was a really hard discovery that I think I put off until, well, in my 40s, because people, if I write about an Asian adoptee that doesn't question her adoption until later in life, even in her 30s, no one believes it. I said, you don't know it because you aren't adopted, and the your instinct to survive is so strong, you will deny everything. So
mm,
I denied so much of my Asian self because I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to belong to the family that loved me. And when I discovered I didn't love my Asian self. In fact, I was always scared or upset when I looked in the mirror. I
mm,
realized I had to do some deep digging. And the only thing I could do at that time, because of COVID, was start to write. So that's when I wrote my first script. And then it was called Franken Family, about blended families. And it really was about the time, and this all comes into being adopted, that I didn't know how to belong. And I thought finally the way to belong was to have a biological child that looks like me. And
mm.
then I had 4 years of infertility. So that was about that struggle, that she might have to accept that she will never have anyone that biologically is connected to her, which is an actual fear. The need to belong is universal, but adoptees have this added layer of pain, which is to biologically belong to somebody.
Wow. So, was there something that happened during that time of going inward and sort of like, was there like a catalyst that was like, this is a story, I need to just get this out? Or was it, had it been brewing for a long time? Or was it like one time you looked in the mirror and you're like, deal with it, you hoe? You know what I mean?
You speak like my Italian mother. God bless her, because she's not with us anymore, but she was obnoxious and crass. I think I always knew. I must have always known, but never talked about it, because I became an actress because I wanted to be
Sure.
anything but Asian. And my agents hated me because I would not go out for Asian things.
Oh.
And um, I I dabbled with writing before. I used to go to the LA Moth Slams, where you go and you tell a little story. And after I told my first story about how my mother found me and how she left this earth, but I do feel like I'm going to find her again, he signed me to write my memoir, which got me thinking about, and this was long ago before I had my children, like, what is my story? And
Mm,
what would I want to share? And at that point, it was all really light and fluffy. Like, I'm a Brady Bunch family. And I really did. I had the best Brady Bunch family. And then when I realized this during COVID, it made me realize, oh my God, I actually had a lot of trauma.
mhm,
And the question that I felt afraid to ask was, is my adoption as beautiful as the story my mother told me it was? Because truthfully, it wasn't. It was
mm,
quite scary. And what I really hope to do, I'm passionate about, is to ask all of these questions that other adoptees or people who just feel like they're other
mhm,
can't say, because it does start that whole spiraling down. And just say, you can ask yourself that, and you can experience both things. I had the most wonderful Brady Bunch family. Adoption is beautiful, and it was the most traumatic thing in my life. And both things can exist at once.
right. That's true.
Mhm.
And that goes sort of into what your brand is, what your voice is,
Yes.
which you are very funny and you write things that I think every person can identify with in a certain
Mhm.
sense, but it also is um very specific also to what
Yes.
you've gone through and sort of like how you perceive life. And so if you were to describe your voice or your brand, how would you describe that for yourself?
Yes, it actually was a journey, because when I first started writing, I was like, "Oh, I just write about belonging," and then I realized, no, it's deeper than that. I write about being the other and being told to fear the other when I knew the other was me,
Mm,
and then I realized that most of the people that I write, the comedy comes through pain, and they are trying to prove that they're worthy of being saved, that they're worthy to exist in this life, like Fleabag.
mhm,
Am I good enough to live in this world and be loved? And then I realized that tied back to my origin story, which is I was abandoned. I was saved by my parents, But then I lived my entire life proving I was worthy of being saved. So they didn't regret adopting me. So
Mm.
that's very much in my writing, not very specifically, but in all of my characters, they're infused with this deep longing to be loved. And ultimately, the journey is others can't heal you by giving you love. You have to heal yourself by loving yourself.
How did you personally get through this? I mean, that's a lot of like therapy, it feels
It
like.
is. It's a
Was
lot
it
of therapy.
therapy? Was it your own, like working it out on the page? Like, what was your process just to sort of like work through your own
I
grief
love that
and trauma?
question. That's such a good question because I just spoke at a college and a lot of kids came, college age kids came up to me and they said, I would love to start loving myself now, but how do you do it? And I said, it's a choice. It's
Yeah.
a choice, even if it's 5 minutes a day when you're feeling positive and have the energy to say, I do love myself. And then even if it's a little note, I love myself. But what I did, especially being Asian, I was scared so much of Asians my whole life because I grew up in a white town. But my mom also was so scared whenever we saw an Asian family, instead of saying, Hey, my daughter's Asian, can you tell us anything? She'd say, Get away. They might kidnap you and bring you back to Korea. Very scared, very
Wow.
protective. Yes. So
Yeah.
he inadvertently made me scared shitless of Asians, which made me scared of myself, which
Hmm.
is self-hate. So during COVID, I asked all of my friends, if you have any Asian friends, would you please ask them if they'd like to Zoom with me? Zoom was a very hard time for me because I saw myself
Yeah.
on screen and it was really hard to say, that is me. I can't believe how Asian I look. And I'm doing it right now. I'm like, oh my God,
Uh-huh.
she's so Asian. But now I'm happy with that. So I would Zoom with random Asians. I even had a little list of them. They're called my Asian collectibles. And I would just stare at them, say, and do a mantra. It's like, you're normal, you're beautiful, you are, you could be loved. And at the very end, we'd talk about everything. At the very end, I would just say, You're just a normal person. And they're like, Yeah, we're just normal people. It's like, Thank you so much. And then even my husband, when we finally started going out, he'd say, There's one now. And I would stare at them instead of like, No, 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 I'm not Asian. And I would stare at it like, you're beautiful, and I can love you. And that's basically what I did. It was a conscious choice, and I had to keep making it over and over. And then I wrote about it.
Oh, well, you are beautiful, one.
Thank you.
And two, the self-awareness for that kind of like work on yourself is just like, whoo. I mean, honestly, you should be so proud of yourself and what you're teaching your kids about just
Mhm.
identity and like self-love is whoo. I mean,
I
and
know.
as Felicity Wren says, 10 stars.
Oh, thank you. I really think besides, reaching out to specifically adopted people, anybody who doesn't feel self-love, to start it sooner than later and to actually give them tools on how to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mhm.
I'm sort of like in a state of not shock, but I'm like, I'm I'm inspired right now by you and just like,
Oh,
wow, the work that you've done is whew, it's so cool.
thank you.
So
Thank you. And I'm learning as a woman to also
yes,
just say thank you and not then make
good,
excuses. Thank you.
good. I was just talking to someone the other day. She was asking me, she's writing something and talking about soulmates. Do I believe in soulmates? Do I believe in love at first sight and true love and all that stuff? And like when you stop and think about that stuff and really sort of like, what do I think about that? I think those are good tools for everybody to do. And just like, how do I define that? And is that is that fucked up? Like, is the way that I'm defining it messed up?
Right.
Or is this like healthy? So,
I think that's another great thing that I should say. If you do want to make progress towards thinking about in positive terms, everybody has a story. I think even religion is a story.
mhm,
The stories placed on my face really piss me off. When we have moments of quiet, it is scientifically proven that we turn negative. So
yeah,
it is writing a story that is positive. And if writing a story that we are soulmates, that you will meet each other in another life, if that is positive and makes you joyful, then stick with it
yeah,
because we don't know. So why not write something positive?
right. You're right.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness, this talk is turning into something just glorious. And I
Yay.
mean, people are learning about self-love. Well, let's shift gears a little bit from that into the craft itself. Um, so let's just tell me about your acting background.
Sure.
And then when you started writing, how that has helped to inform. what you
Yes.
page.
Yes. So I started acting when I was in high school. I had no voice when I was little. I was very shy because I was the only Asian. And if I didn't speak, then they didn't think I could speak English.
Mm,
So I think I found my voice by using others' voices and acting. And then I got even louder by singing. And so I actually was that little Asian girl who said I want to be on Broadway, and I actually was on Broadway. So I do have a very fairy tale life,
mhm,
but because I was very loved by my mom, very unconditionally, which is why I went into things that probably shouldn't have happened, that happened because I was naive. And writing is another one of those things. Acting is so helpful as a writer because unlike the name actor, we actually don't act like the character, we embody the character.
mhm.
We know what kind of purse that character wears, what the familyhood trauma is, what her trauma is, who she likes, who she doesn't, what she would wear, what's her favorite food. You know all of that stuff. So character development for me is that, in fact, I do too much of it. I love it. I'm all of my scripts are character driven. I was like, I wish I had a little bit of plot driven mind in me, but it does help for all of that biography of your family and why people do what they do, the human condition,
Mhm.
because acting really is just the study of human suffering, which is love, hate, pain, longing. And my dialogue has always been commented as being like the 10 out of 10. And that's because when I was an actor, especially being Asian, I hated the things I had to say. It never made sense. It didn't flow. It wasn't funny, even though I knew it was supposed to be funny. And I was like, I vow my actors will always love what they say, know why they're saying it, know what they want.
I love that. So, what is your process like? And is it different from when you started? Have you evolved in your writing process?
I feel like I'm still floundering, to be quite honest. I was just talking to my writer friend yesterday about
Everybody does.
yeah, I'm writing a rom-com, which is new territory for me. And even when I still write TV comedy, I have a cheat sheet of my structure. Like, am I? But what happens is, even if I write an outline, my characters speak and then they take me completely somewhere else. And then I don't know what the story is anymore. So it
Mm,
really does take me many, many passes to understand what my story is. And then for TV, which is even harder, is what's the week to week? Is there an engine? Is it
right.
something that could be long sustaining? So that kind of drives me crazy. In fact, I always said if I'm a showrunner, if anyone said the word engine, I would charge them like they'd have to put in the money jar because it drives me crazy. So I very much write from the heart and pain.
Mhm.
And in my head, I don't start writing until I could see the beginning of why the pain started or got exposed, right? The inciting incident, and then the ending, really.
Mhm.
Then where did she end? And ultimately, I think in terms of feature, which is why I'm trying to
Yeah.
do a feature rather than long term, like
Right.
setting up. But yes, I still struggle. I have cheat sheets. But my biggest thing is I used to have a post-it that said, write badly every day. And then
Yeah.
probably year two, I crossed out the badly.
Mm.
Just write every day.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing is sometimes for me, I'm only going to speak for me, is I have this great story in my head. And then once I get on the page, it's the first time. Like it's not going to come out this like perfect thing. And so
Hmm.
that gets in my own way. And
Oh,
I think the
sure.
more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. And then you're like, but then you're on a different level because then you know more, but then you know less. So you're just always
Yes.
climbing. It's
It is true. I feel like now that I know more, especially with TV and everything, I'm hindered because I'm like,
yeah,
well, my story doesn't have that hook or
right.
doesn't have that engine. And like now I know too much. So I
Yep.
actually feel like my very first one, the Franken family, the first competition I entered, it won, and it was through ISA. It was the
Yep.
Creative Writers Unique Voices. And then I also won the Writers Lab, which was Writers Over 40. So I instinctly said, was given reward. And so
Yeah.
for me, that reward just meant, oh, you're on the right path.
Mhm.
You've got something to say. You have a voice now. And this is
Yeah.
where I feel like I have the most voice. I'm putting my words into other people's mouths.
Yes. Yeah. It was the same for me. The first thing I wrote by myself, I was like top 10 of a competition. I was like, I really know nothing, but there's something about not knowing that
Hmm.
you do know instinctually how story works.
Yes.
You really do know how structure works and what you need to put in
Hmm.
the story. But there's something very beautiful and free about the naive beginnings.
Yes,
You
because
know,
you don't
I
get
kind
in
of
your own
miss that.
way.
I know, I kind of miss that.
I miss it.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, just like this is fun. Diddle-diddle-diddle.
I know. I've got nothing to prove.
I know, yay, it's my fun story finally out. Um, so let's talk about oh, I know what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna talk about your provocative titles of your scripts. And
There's only one really.
well, I mean, you do have, yes, yes. Maybe we won't say it. Go to Stephanie's ISA
Oh, no, we can
profile.
say it. I mean, you said the word
Okay.
F, right? The F
Yeah,
word.
we can.
So basically, I always preface this with my mother had an open door bathroom policy. So she never closed the bathroom door. So that pretty much just says that nothing, everything was on the table except sex.
Right.
So we talked about everything. So that script, it's called Wash Your Birdie, because my mother couldn't say the word vagina. It was my birdie. 101 things that could crawl up your vagina and kill you. And that title actually came up a long time ago when somebody was listening to me tell stories about my mother. And I was like, yeah, if I ever wrote a memoir, that's what it would be. But it became a script.
Yeah.
And for me, I always want to help people through shame. And my shame, deep shame, growing up Catholic and with a mother who was so fearful of me and put me in a bubble, uh, I knew nothing about sex in college. And I was so embarrassed and humiliated in so many different ways and scared of so many things that I probably would have enjoyed. And so that's what my hope is for this one. And I do think that sexual shame and lack of education is perpetuated in this country and probably world, especially for women. So I always love to teach and make people heal through laughter and pain.
Yes. And I think those go hand in hand. I mean,
Yes.
pain,
Hmm.
if you really get to it, it's quite funny and
Yes.
ridiculous, besides the painful part of it, obviously.
Mhm.
But you do write about the thing that I love about your writing is there's sort of a rawness to it that
Mhm.
feels, I mean, like I said before, just universal, but very specific. And, I think that there's a lot of people who can't do that. So I'm super excited for you just in the future, just because it's a it's real. And I'm somebody who doesn't really like small talk. So when I
Me too.
really read something that's like, oh yeah, here we go, which is why I brought up like the title. I
Ah,
mean, that's something that instantly disarms you, where you like know what you're getting into. So
yeah.
like
Oh,
buckle
yes.
up and be ready for like the realness of it and the humor. I mean, it does have that like bridesmaids, you know, pooping, everyone having diarrhea and like, you know what I mean? Like
Right, right.
that's funny, but oh my God, can you imagine? That would be the most horrific thing on the planet.
I know. Yes, that would.
Uh, so how do you I guess just because so much of your writing is it ties into your past and growing up and kind of the stuff that you went through. How do you balance that line between reality and fiction? Like when
Oh,
you're
that's
writing, how do you differentiate between the two? And a lot of times what I'm trying to get at is like a lot of times people are writing autobiographical things, but
mhm,
they sort of get in their own way by sticking to
mhm.
100% truths. So how do you
Absolutely.
mesh the reality of it and the fiction?
Right. So you nailed that as I am, which is how I got to know you. That took me so long to get to where it is because I couldn't separate the two.
Mm,
And I had in my writers group, they kept saying this is not your story. It's not your story.
right.
It's okay that your brother and the person clashes. I'm like, but my brother, it's gonna, if he reads this, it's like I had to let all that go and remember that it is that we're not just writing for ourselves or writing in the hopes to get it made and that an executive is going to have to see this and understand it and
Mhm.
see why it's sellable, which is really hard for me because I tend to write, for me, I think I write human condition. I write all the juicy parts of pain and love. And I don't write a heist or someone shoots someone and is on the run. That doesn't excite me as much of just why people do what they do. So that has been the biggest lesson I've had to learn. Everything I write is somebody in my life, even if it's my daughter coming out like a male character, but the same characteristics. So I feel like that's how I get such genuine characters, but then I have to let go and work on story as the fiction. And if I can't, I have some friends that are very good at story.
Speaking of that, what is your circle like? What's your, what's your wolf pack? What's your tribe? Like
Yes.
who's in that? How many people? Who reads your scripts? What do you do when you're finished with something, when you have questions? Who's your group?
Yes, well, it did shift. So my group used to be, in the beginning, just friends who would read it, and I'm
Mhm.
so grateful for them because they gave me the like thumbs up to keep moving forward. And then it wasn't until I joined a writers group through my friend Nick Pappas. It's called Lab 23, and it's been around for 20 years. And you have to go. It's every week, every Wednesday, in person. Two presenters do 30 minutes with 15 minutes of notes. Everyone's timed and it's the most supportive environment. There are times when you're like, oh my God, it's my turn to present. And you're like, oh my gosh, got to get these pages down. I have to have at least
Yeah.
30 pages. So it forces you, but there's so many different there's playwrights, there's screenwriters, there's novelists in there. So that has been enormous for me. And then I would have to say, until I met ISA, my other huge family was from CineStory. And I
Mhm.
talk about CineStory like I talk about ice cream, and that says a lot. I really found my tribe there, similar, like-minded people that are in the business but are really there because they love storytelling.
Mhm.
And so I like Jimmy Miller is the person I go to for story. I have my set group of people. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's really good for story. She's really great for do the macro and the micro. So I have about, I would say, 4 to 5 really great friends from CineStory that we exchange scripts.
Good. And
Mhm.
then speaking of ISA, how did you first come to us at ISA? How were you introduced? What was your first experience like? Was it winning the
Yes, the
creative
fellowship.
screenwriter? Okay.
Oh, well, the creative screener, I did not know it was connected with ISA. So it wasn't until I won the Story Farm Fellowship that I was like,
Okay.
wait, you also do creative? I was like, I suckered you guys twice with a story of my adoption. It was just 4 years apart. But I actually found that out, somebody in my writer's lab, Tamara Maloney, who I actually met at the writer's lab.
Hmm.
She said, hey, check this out. I think you'd be good for this. And I submitted and then totally forgot about it until I got the email saying, can you do a Zoom?
And
Yeah,
that was for the Story Farm Fellowship
that was for the
with
story
Max.
farm with Max. He was one of
Oh,
the sweetest, most eligible man out there.
tell them,
I
everyone.
know, like lovely, eligible, good man out there.
They happen
who
for real.
who I am amazed at how that I won that and how many things ISA and Max and Felicity and you do for free to help emerging writers. I'm so moved by that. I must have cried 3 times on the retreat. So thank you. I should take this moment to say thank you.
Had nothing to do with me, but thank
Mhm.
you,
No,
Max.
but you're doing this out of
Sure.
your time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That
sure.
takes time.
Well, we do. We love writers. We love story, and I mean that's kind of it. There's
Hmm.
not. It's not a money grab. It's not a scam. It's true, genuine care because we're all
Hmm.
creatives ourselves.
Yes.
So we don't want to see anyone get scammed or taken
Yeah.
advantage of or anything like that. So awesome. So tell me about um okay, so this year, 2025, you're an ISA top 25
Yes.
screenwriter to watch. Yay. How has that helped you in any way? Have you gotten any meetings? Like what's happening with you right now?
Well, because of that, and because of ISA and winning the Story Farm, my script did get to Netflix, to your contact at Netflix. And we had 2 meetings, and she gave me her email address and said, I would love to read your future samples. And I said, hey, that's going to take me a bit. Would you like to read Wash Your Birdie? And she did. And she replied back with probably the most glowing email response that I kept it so that on dark days I could
Yeah.
just go back like and remind myself that I am on the right track, that I do know what I'm doing, because I've had a lifetime of storytelling, even though the craft has been 4 to 5 years. So
Yeah.
just to keep trusting myself. And then even today I was doing yoga and it came over me. It's like the most unique thing about you is your voice, Stephanie. I'm like, and even though everyone's been saying that for all the time I've been writing, I don't know why it keeps dawning on me. But it's true. It's like I can stand out because I have a voice. I'm not afraid to use it. And I've been trying so long to find a way and how to be the loudest. And I do feel writing is the way. So What I do also is I have to rise above the contraction and the state of the industry right now and remind myself content is still being made. Why not it be me?
Yeah.
So, yes. And I keep meeting people like you and Ellen at Netflix that are supporting me. And so I believe in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Say it loud and proud.
Yes.
So what are your future, like, what are your future goals? What do you want to happen? What are you hoping to
Definitely.
happen? What are
Yes.
you writing right now? You're doing the rom-com, and
Yes.
are you going to focus on features? Like, what's your
Yes.
like short-term goal, long-term goals?
Yes, that's changed since I've become a writer and no more. Because of course, the first thing you write, like I'm gonna have it made.
Yeah.
That's definitely changed. I wanted to be a showrunner, did the advanced showrunners course at UCLA. Now, with the reality of things, my 1 year goal is to get staffed
Okay.
or even do as Netflix had suggested, even coming in and do punch ups or
Hmm.
do things like oh my God, I'd love to do punch ups. So that's my 1 year. I would have to say my 5 year and my ultimate goal though is talking to people who don't love themselves or feel other or marginalized and help them on their way to self-love. And if it's through laughter, fantastic. If it's through on screen, that's great.
I like to wrap up these interviews with advice. So I feel like instead of asking you advice, what advice you'd give your younger self, because we've talked a lot about that
Mm-hmm.
identity, what advice would you give for young people who maybe are thinking about writing or identity or self-love? What advice would you give?
If you are people who create, and you probably are if you're watching this, I would say create no matter what, even if it means you have to have another job to live. We were always taught to tell people if there's anything else you could do in life, do it. But you still have to create, or something in you will die. I absolutely believe that something will not heal. The easiest way to healing is creating. So write it just for yourself, write it in the hopes for other people to read it, write it for your best friend to read, write it and then burn it. But get it out in some creative way, painting, singing, dancing, writing. And don't, even if your parents don't support you in an artistic field, you still have a moment every day to write something down.
It's good advice. I
Mhm.
like it. I need that advice because I got to write today. Um, thank you, Stephanie, so
Of
much
course.
for this chat. I feel like I learned more about you, and
Yes.
I feel like there's so much more to like dive into. So maybe
Mhm.
down the line we'll do a follow-up
I would love that.
dive into some deeper stuff, but we like to keep these tight,
Oh,
short and tight.
I know.
Who's going to watch a 3 hour?
No one can get past 20 seconds.
I know. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And I'll see everybody in the next interview.
Hey, thank you so much. Bye.